Robert Seymour, farmer and owner of the property South Killanoola.
I'm Dean Eastwood, been manager here for 9 years for the Seymour family.
I'm positioning myself to be the 6th generation farmer and owner of South Killanoola. I live on the farm with my wife Anne and 3 children, Oscar, Charlie and Phoebe.
The Seymours settled here in about 1847. Henry, the pioneer, he was actually a lawyer, but he had a love of the land and he came from Galway, family of about 9. He sent the boys all looking for land. One son went to New Zealand and bought property there, but they came to the southeast and decided to settle here. They called it Killanoola. Then later on during my life, I purchased South Killanoola.
Well, currently South Killanoola's expanded to about 3,000 hectares.
So we run 3 enterprises. We run a cropping business, beef and a sheep operation. About 1,500 hectares of crop. We've got about 980 cows to calve in 2021. We're on about 7,200 composite ewes. We've got a Hampshire Down stud, oldest registered stud in Australia. So we've been in lamb plan for 5 years, which involves fair bit of work. So, you know, tagging at birth. And our clients have asked for it. Certainly some of them are looking for, you know, positive fat, lower birth weights. Traditionally for us, our market for our Hampshire Down rams has been for ewe lamb joiners. The Hampies have a pretty small lamb, so and they're pretty easy of lambing.
George Miller, a film director, wanted to purchase some Hampshire sheep for the film Babe, which he was making. So yes, we agreed and we took the ewes across to New South Wales for the filming. But anyhow, that was a good advertisement for Hampshires. When I left school, I did a law degree. My father was a little concerned that I might digress, so he sent me jackarooing. In 1961, I came back to the farm. I was here until 1977, and then I went to the Victorian farm.
After I finished school, I took the opportunity to go up to the Northern Territory, got an interest in aviation, got a commercial flying licence, stepped up into the domestic airlines and then into the international airlines, which took me, I've lived in Singapore, Dubai and in Turkey. So for me, coming in from an outside profession to come back onto the farm, I can identify skills. You know, I know that I can't compete with someone who's been working full-time as a manager, and it's just good business to have the best person doing the best job, you know, so that's not an issue with me.
So the staff structure at South Killanoola is myself as manager. My wife handles all the business administration and compliance.
Hi, I'm Jenny Eastwood. I'm Dean Eastwood's wife. Do the administrative work here at South Killanoola for CC Seymour & Co, and we live here on the farm. Well, we've currently got 4 full-time staff members. Generally start at 7:30 and Dean will go down and meet them and dish out the jobs for the morning.
We try and all sort of meet for morning smoko as well. It's not a bad time just for everyone to just chat about what they're up to or what's going on or any issues. We've had an agronomist here for nearly 6 years now with us, and he's been a real game changer. Phil does all our agronomy. He's got a dairy farm as well himself, so he's got a bit of fat in the game and can help us through all the principles of it. We're a Phalaris and sub-clover based pasture. That's where we end up at. We've got a rotation going. We'll renovate back to permanent Phalaris based pasture, about 100 hectares a year. And there's about 300 hectares in the system at any one time. They're either in brassica crops or they'll be in annual ryegrasses. So we'll use annual ryegrasses and brassicas to clean them before we go back to generally a Phalaris based pasture. So we do an AI program. We join in mid-May for a mid-February calving. So the heifers are calved about a month ahead of the cows. Initially we did it as a labour saving. We thought that we could probably, by condensing the calving, we could save time in checking heifers. It probably hasn't worked out that way. With using shorter gestation length bulls, our heifers start calving about 10 days ahead of their start date anyway. But we've kept it going because it just gives the heifers more opportunity to get back in calf. We're putting better genetics into the herd. We can actually manipulate feed a bit better. That we know we've got X amount of heifers calving very early, and then we'll have a break to in the next batch. We've traditionally always had a Hereford herd here. So we've got Hereford bred back to Hereford bulls, black baldy cows, and we've got straight bred Angus cows. So they're all joined as a bit of a mix, other than the Herefords are always joined back to a Hereford cow, and then Hereford bulls back over Angus. The EBVs that we choose for the AI program and for the cow program aren't a lot different. The difference generally is that they'll be just better figured bulls in the AI program, bulls that probably in reality as a commercial breed I can't afford. So they'll be those real curve bender, really high, top 10% for 400 day, 600 day, but a really low birth. They may well be a 1 or a 2 for birth, maybe -10 for gestation length. So they're generally bulls that we couldn't afford within the AI program. We want a little bit of fat on our cows. Then we look into the cow herd, not much changes. Really want to be top 20% for 400 day. We want to be breed average for 600 day, breed average for milk, positive for rib and rump, breed average for IMF, and probably cap birth weight at 5 to 5.5. But we'll look at that a little bit better. If the bull's got the right structure and he's got a negative for gestation length, we'll probably look at him then. We work on the theory that we basically retain probably 90 to 95% of the heifers. We'll only probably take the real tail out of the heifers in about April. Then we'll let the bull have the first choice. You know, these heifers are sort of 14 and a half months. They're not fully mature, so numbers give us options, whether we want to grow the herd or if we have a land acquisition, we can easily stock it. So. Well, there's bred well, fed well within the sheep industry, and Jason Tromp did a few days with the bred well, fed well within the beef industry, and we sort of took a bit out of that. So we thought that the best thing was to just find the right genetics that suited us and EBVs that suit us, and not be too upset about where we buy from. Having said that, look, we're very, very lucky that in the lower southeast that I've got some cracking good studs to buy from and source our bulls from there. So the heifers calve in February for 6 weeks. And the cows start about mid-March for 6 weeks as well. We've always been and traditionally been a weaner production system, so selling the bulk of our calves in November, December, January. We will keep calves longer if we've got feed availability, but I'm conscious too that we don't end up taking feed out of the mouth of a heifer and do her some detriment going into the autumn, expecting her to come back into the herd. So we've always been a traditional weaner market. So we're considering going to a end of July calving. That'll allow us to grow more feed through the autumn period for more ewes, and then have a spring calving herd. It's a decision we can only make once, and you can't go back from that within a cow herd. And I think Digby made the comment only recently that you just want to make sure we do that change for all the right reasons rather than following everyone else down the line. This year will be about 7,200 ewes. We use Paradoo and Cloven Hills genetics. We lamb for 17 days starting the 17th of June. We have about a 25-day break, and then we have another 17-day lambing. In our mixed age ewes, our ewe lambs start about the same time as our round 2 ewes start lambing. We join them at the end of February. They'll lamb about the end of July, start of August. We're trying to target a ewe that's 9 months of age. We'd like to see her better than 55 kilos. It works, and it's we're going to keep persevering with it. And the data that we get from composite sheep breeders is pretty immense. So we've actually now employed Steve Cotton from Dynamic Ed to help me get through it all and decipher all the data. There's probably 50% more data than what's in a EBV for cattle. So the rams that we're looking to buy for the commercial side of the flock, we want the rams to be top 20% for weaning weight, birth weight, adult mature weight, but we'll cap that at 15. We don't want them too big. We'd like to see them positive for fat. We'd like to see them in the top 10% for eye muscle area. And then if we've got to do another selection criteria, we'll split them on number of lambs weaned. So really what we're trying to do is get a lamb that's going to grow really, really, really fast to 12 months, to 15 months, and then she stops and works within our ewe lamb joining program. We still want to target that 1,500 kilograms of dry matter. So ewes are generally 20 to 25 days on lambing sites and they're gone, so they're not chewing a lot of feed out. We really do follow the, lambs alive, lamb survival. Lamb survival's probably become our biggest thing now. We don't talk too much about number of lambs marked. For us, it's number of lambs that have survived. Singles, we're not too stressed. We'll take them up to sort of mobs of maybe 400. Twin bearing ewes, we try and be in mobs of below 100. And our triplets are in mobs of below 30. So we use portable electric fencing, and we just split up all our paddocks. Our paddocks range in size from 50 to 20 hectares. We're seeing that we can stock ewes at 11 and 12 to 15 ewes to the hectare, and we don't get a drop in survival. So it shows us that we can push them fairly tight into small areas and have high survival. This year, I think we were about the 52 lambing sites. We put up about 52k of portable electric fencing and about 500 electric fence posts, and they stay up for about 6 weeks. Well, I suppose South Killanoola is a little bit different to a lot of people in this area, that we have a share farmer that manages and controls the day-to-day running of the program, and he really controls that every day and determines what happens. About 11 or 1200 hectares in both leased and owned cropping country. We'll have wheat, beans and canola. Some of that'll be grazing canolas, which we've just included in the system. So we sow that in September. We'll be grazing that in January, and we'll run that right through till June and then lock them up and take them through as a grain crop. Really, we'd like to see it, high 3 to 3.5 tonne crop. Last year's returns were phenomenal, and then with the return that we're going to get out of canola, it's been really good. I suppose it's given us confidence. We did 120 hectares dry land last year, and this year we'll have about 85 hectares under irrigation. Top of that, we've got small seeds production, so we grow clover seed, Phalaris seed, lucerne seed, but Bruce controls that. Bruce McLean's our share farmer, and yeah, that's his baby.
The dung beetles have been quite well promoted through, McKillop Group and various other farming seminars and things that we've had here. They love horse manure and cattle manure, and we've seen obvious benefits of how they take the dung down into the soil, and the burrowing effects and all the benefits of that into the natural soils, and even to the effect of worms. We can save on drenching. Recently we've set up a nursery. It's a very simple process. They mail you the setup materials to create your nursery, and then about a week later the beetles arrive. They're meant to stay there for approximately 3 months, and you just put in 3 to 4 day old manure, not too fresh but not too hard, and establish a colony, and eventually we'll release them, and they'll hopefully spread over the farm and over our neighbours. We're happy to do our little bit to encourage them.
One of the big things in succession is you need to discuss it with your family and be completely transparent.
It was established from that first input that we didn't want to run the whole thing as one. We all wanted to split everything into our own, and it was all very transparent.
So the 3 properties, Digby at South Killanoola, Sarah at Yatnat, Tom at Corobna Dairy, and Nicholas has started an organic farm also at Yatnat.
And there's been a few changes along the way, and there'll be a few more. It's not a fixed, you don't just sort of sign on the bottom line and agree to something. It's a perpetual motion. But I think that's the key to succession. It's not the succession itself, it's the communication to start the process. And even if the succession fails, the fact that you've had the conversation mitigates the damage of a fail, of not having a plan at all.
I've done Weenmore lambs alive. We're also involved with McKillop Farm Group. Lucky enough to be chairman of the livestock committee, and they're really good. They're locally based and allow some demonstration sites within the southeast, which is funded by MLA around the cattle industry. And the plan is, I think that they're talking that that's going to be along the lines of lifetime ewe. So we're involved with one on weaner production and growing your weaners out better, whether that's steers or heifers. I'm involved with another one which is heifer management and trying to retain more heifers and keep them into their second calving and getting them back in calf, because that's probably the biggest issue we have with them, is retaining them in the herd after their first calving. We're in our third year of EID within the flock. We're slowly doing it. Every year, composite ewe lambs are all being tagged. They're then allocated to whether they're an early or a late, a twin or a single. And this year, we've just started to allocate where we can sire, so we know what sire group they've come from, and then tracing them through so we can get a bit of data on them, because the hope is that when we reach a steady state, we can then start to put selection pressure on those ewes. So yeah, try and use that data a bit more. So we've got a Clipex sheep handler. It'll weigh sort of 500 to 700 an hour, depending on how they flow. But it also takes the labour and the strain out of handling composite ewes and drenching and vaccinating. So a bit more efficacy there with that. Stick reader gets a heck of a lot of use. It's probably nearly the most used bit of gear. It's amazing how many times we all go for a stick reader for doing something. All the cows are scanned. It gives us an alert file and we know who's not in calf. We use it also preg scanning with our heifers, so we know who's in calf to the AI. This year we actually fetal age for 3 periods. Still running just large contemporary mobs, but come after Christmas, setting them up for calving, we'll split all them and we don't have to worry about reading tag numbers. It's all electronically recorded, and we'll just go through with a wand and draft them off the EID this year. The pumps on South Killanoola are all on text message alert, and they're all on watchdog alerts. 3 main pumps that run the property. 2 of those are pressure-based systems and one just pumps to tanks. So they're a little bit different in how they do it, but they've all got high and low pressure cutoff. So they send us a text message every morning, and then if the pumps stop for any reason or lose pressure or blow out on high pressure, they send me a text to say to go and check. And all those pumps we can stop and start by text message. It doesn't stop us from still having to go and check water tanks and still check troughs, but it's at least we know the pumps are going. Been with AgriWeb for probably nearly 7 years. We find it really good. So we've got the majority of the staff are on it and they're recording everything live of what they're doing. We'll start to do a bit more on the pasture management and measurement and growth rate side of it. That's probably the next step with it. But AgriWeb's been really, really good to us.
The next generation now need to plan, and I have 9 grandchildren. You know, it's not that far away from their succession planning.
Big things in biosecurity we're big on, and we'd love to embrace, you know, the carbon side of things too when we get some more information. So we're pretty much on the front foot as far as the latest farming and animal practices go, I think.
Been here, 9 years November, and it's been fantastic. The one thing that I've always felt is important with people employing me and hopefully with my own staff is that we care about them, and Seymour's do that. You know, the family, our family's a priority, and you know, we're made to feel welcome within their families as well. So that's really important to us and has been with all our jobs that we've really enjoyed. Bull Lagoon and Mayo are fantastic communities and made us feel welcome since day one. It's been brilliant. We certainly are making improvements. We've got a very large infrastructure program happening very early in 2022 with a new set of sheep yards, which is pretty exciting. Going forward from that, I think we're not far away from a new set of cattle yards. I'm looking forward to taking the business to the next step. You don't want to be the bloke that they go, he did a shoddy job and we've done a really good job of fixing it up. You know, it's important if I leave here that I've done the best I can for the business and looked after it and, you know, treated it as my own.
Thanks very much, and well done for you for putting up with watching Hereford cattle and heaps of sheep. So you've done well. So bear with me. One of the big changes since I did that 2 years ago is I'm just about 50, and my eyesight's gone or going. So I'm now trying to work out how to use a pair of glasses that I've never had to work on before. So I'll try it, and with the glasses it might make it a little bit easier. So look, firstly, thanks to Angus Australia and Beef Australia for sponsoring today. And thanks for Jen for getting us here. A bit of an ordeal, but we got here. So look, hopefully you get something out today. I'm pretty nervous. I sound pretty confident in that was a bit easier. And hopefully I don't contradict myself too much. So look, I'll break it into about 6 parts and we'll just go through it. Look, the enterprise has changed a lot, and in one form or another. We've been 177 years and 6 generations, coming into our 7th. But I'll just speak about the current generation that are on SK and where they're at. There's a fair bit of emotion, as you can see from the guys, and a bit from me too, on SK. They really love it. It's Robert and Digby's baby, and it's always been their baby, and that's because, you know, I suppose, it's such a long time there. But in saying that, the guys see it as a business, and at the end of the day, Robert, the business has to make a profit. So as much as there's emotion driven by this place, it's still got to be a profitable business. It's changed a lot. Since Robert came home, we were Herefords and Merino sheep. We've transitioned through Chevrolets, Simmentals. We've had Corriedale sheep. We've calved and lambed at every month of the year nearly to where we are today. So we're a little bit different from where we were in that video. We've lost a bit of lease country, but we're currently 3,000 hectares. It's a mixed operation. We'll calve about 900 cows. We've just finished calving 900 March calving cows. We're about 7,600 composite ewes, and we've got about 800 hectares of cropping country. Of about 240 hectares of that is centre pivot irrigation. We're unashamedly a protein-based business, and that's where we see our future, and that's where we'll take it. So, you know, I don't know if any of you are here aware of composite sheep. We produce shocking wool. We're not wool producers. We don't care about the wool. It's a byproduct that we deal with, but we're about producing meat, and that's where we see our business. Roughly, our income split about a third between the three operations. It's about evenly split that way. Obviously, we have some seasonal fluctuations and market fluctuations, but that's how we see our business, and that's how we like to see our business. Why are we where we are today? How did we get here? Vision and drive is probably the first one. The Seymours have been willing to change and evolve. They're not willing to sit back and just let things flow. We always are questioning everything within the business. Look, they are conservative, but they feel that's probably one of the reasons that after 177 years, it's still in family home, it's still a family-owned operation, and will probably go to the next generation. Soil type, like everyone, we've got different soil types. We've got about 4 different soil types on SK. Our greatest challenging soil type, and you would have seen it in the cropping side of the operation, is our black cracking clays over limestone. They're very challenging. We crop a lot of that country now, and that's made a heck of a change. Robert made the comment when I was first started at the place that it was a revelation the day they realised that they could crop the plains country. The plains country goes underwater if we get a high water table. It cracks and we get crickets in summer, and it's it's great country for killing cattle with grass tetany. So it's a really challenging bit of soil. So to crop it's fantastic. To give you some idea, in 2017 we had a very wet winter and water table comes to ground level at home. We lost 250 hectares of grazing area, that's effective grazing area, and we lost 200 hectares of crop. So it was pretty ordinary, and we didn't come dry till about November. By being in 3 different operations, we're reducing our risk, and that's a really good example. When we lost a lot of crop, it was okay because we could crop again, but also we had other operations that could support that cropping operation. Our cattle have been a phenomenal returner to us for the last 2 years. That's been great. When I first started, there was no doubt that our sheep operation was supporting our cattle enterprise, so it reduces that risk for us in the business. They also complement each other really well. We can graze the stubble, we can grow fodder on our cropping areas for our grazing operations, so the 3 complement each other really well. We've got self-replacing composite sheep. We control the biosecurity on them, and I control the breeding. We control the breeding objectives on those sheep. It's no different to a cattle operation. We're breeding a specific type of animal for a specific reason in our sheep. We're predominantly Angus. I suppose you all want to hear that. Look like we're all predominantly Hereford by that, but we are predominantly Angus. We're probably over 600 cows would be black cows. That's a combination of market access. That's probably the biggest one at the moment, is market access for us, and better returns. So well done to Angus Australia. It's been a credit to you that you've marketed it so well. Robert's always made the comment that he doesn't care what colour they are as long as they make him money. But he does have a soft spot for the Herefords. So that's why we've got Herefords joined to Hereford cows. That's okay. He's the boss. It's fine. Breeding. Look, this has evolved over my time, and we've probably got it a little bit more structured around the breeding of the cow herd now, and we've changed it a little bit since the MLA video. I come from a dairy background, used to milk dairy cows, and that's where females are king. And I was once given advice from an Angus breeder that you really should select bulls with maternal traits as a priority over traits that are directly affected to the profitability of your steers. Otherwise, you could end up with a herd of cows looking like a mob of steers. And we hold that pretty true still today in how we look at our traits for our females and how we manage the whole operation. As stated, look, I've attended a couple of bred well, fed well courses. They've been really good. And I was only saying to Jake yesterday that even when I went back and selecting AI size, I still go back and look at that data and what selection criteria we got to make sure we're still happy with where we are. Look, in either breed, when we're selecting bulls for our mature cows, we're just looking, as I said, we've just evolved a little. I think we're probably over 10 years pushed, so we've changed a little bit on what we're doing. Breed average for milk. I need a beef cow to get back in calf. I don't need her to produce a 450 kilo milk feeder. She's just got to have average, breed average for milk. We're sort of wanting top 30% for days to calve, calving these daughters and our 400-day growth. We'd like to see adult weight lower than our 600-day weight growth. We don't want monsters. Our cows, we want them efficient. We want them not negative, or at least breed average for rib and rump fat. As I said in the video, and I am repeating myself a little bit, I apologise. We like to see a bit of fat on our cows. Our winters can be pretty ordinary, and we can have some pretty tough summers. And we just like breed average for 600-day IMF and scrotal. We sort of try and keep it to 4 traits, and then let the others filter. In our Angus cattle, we use the Angus Tech search function, and I find that really good. So that'll filter out. I can put in what we want. We filter what we want and where they are. As I said, we've probably changed a little bit. I'm not too stressed on where the bulls come from now. As long as they meet my EBV criteria, we'll happily look at bulls, and we're not overly loyal to one stud. Having said that, we do shy away from studs that overly pump their cattle. If we feel that they're probably feeding a bit too much grain or supplement, we won't sort of go and look at those sort of bulls. We've found in the past, look, you buy those bulls and you're getting back 12 months later and you question who bought him, and I can only blame myself normally. And you look at him and think, my God, I don't really know how he turned out the way he did. So we try for that. We use EBVs as our initial selection. Much probably my agents discussed at times, but we'll use that, knock out every one that we don't want, and then we go and then we look at structure. So we're looking for bulls that have got good feet, good temperament, they're balanced in shape, they're athletic, and they're soft skinned. I don't look at sale weights on sale day. It does not interest me. We'll take our agent along as a second opinion, and then and another set of eyes. Something probably slightly controversial is that we test all our bulls for semen morphology, and we will cull bulls that fail 2 tests on our vet's recommendation. We've got a really tight calving pattern. We calve in 6 weeks, and we've got a policy that if you're not rearing a calf or in calf, you're gone, which I don't have a problem with. But it's not always the cow's fault, and testing is just another way of making sure we've got another thing ticked off. We use the AI in our heifers, and we retain bulls from their progeny to use back within some of the herd. Not a large amount, but the top of those, and we use them as backups in the program. Look, in conclusion, at SK, what we're looking for is a medium frame cow that gets back in calf every year. She doesn't require excessive feed and rears me a 280 kilo plus weaner. That's what we're looking for there. Look, people in the business, day to day, it's run by myself, Robert, Digby, and Jenny, my wife. We hold quarterly board meetings, formal board meetings, and we talk pretty regularly. It'd be pretty strange not to talk to one of the two guys once every week or 10 days, depending on what's going on. Staff. Look, can I say from the outset, it's probably my greatest challenge at the moment, and I hope not going into 2030 that we're still at that challenge, but it's certainly a challenge at the moment. I'll start by acknowledging that of the 5 staff in that video there, which is only just under 2 years ago, there's only 2 remain. Thankfully me, obviously, and the young girl in the video who is now our leading hand, who started out with us as a school-based trainee 4 years ago. The other guys have moved on into retirement or into challenging roles. South Killanoola is complex, and it's probably a little bit too complex, and my wife would be the greatest critic of why we've got it so complex. And our workload doesn't generally ease off, and that's probably just a combination of the cow herd. All the enterprises sort of overlap each other a bit, and when we need to be working within them. And with this comes some pressure on staff. They've got to be committed. They've got to be able to think for themselves, and they've got to like working with sheep. And that's probably the greatest challenge. And look, the two, and they're not in these videos, the 2 kids, the 2 people that will not work in sheep currently are my 2 eldest children. So love the cattle industry, but will not work with sheep. I don't necessarily need and will not employ staff on skills. I'm more interested in their attitude. I want them to be allowed to be challenged and enjoy being in agriculture. I can teach people skills. I can't give people attitude, the right attitude. Look, and a really good example of that is we've got Gemma at the moment working for us. She's 18. She's just out of school. She has no ag background, but she asks questions. She admits her mistakes. And once shown how to do something, she does it and she openly communicates. And that's all down to her attitude. That's fantastic. I can't teach her that. That's just in her. We do use professional advisors, and we probably use a few of them. We don't know it all at SK, and we're happy to employ people who are professionals in their field to advise us. We currently have a private agronomist, a sheep advisor, and a cattle advisor who is also our vet, and our accountant. These are all fee for service. That's the only way we do it. Our job is to take on board their advice, use it where we think it can work within our business. At the end of the day, they're the advisors and we're the managers of the business. Having said that, we certainly look at it, and I ask Jenny every year to give me a report for what every one of those individual advisors has cost me for the year, and just make some decisions as to whether I think they've given us a fair return on what we spent on them. Succession, and I'm talking obviously now on behalf of the Seymour family. Look, from the outside looking in, it looked pretty seamless, but Robert assures me, and Digby, that it certainly did have its moments. It's not easy. So Seymour started planning for succession in 2005 and engaged a specialist to help them with it, and they really didn't complete it until 2022. So it's taken a fair while to do it. It certainly helps that the Seymour group, as you can see, is very large and very diverse. This has allowed members of the family to have substantial standalone businesses rather than having to split one enterprise up amongst four family members. Robert made the comment to me last week that the family members don't have to have the skills to run their businesses day to day, and I think Digby graciously admits that. But scale of our businesses has allowed us to employ managers in those businesses, and his opinion is that his family members, or anyone, that the family members just have to have the skills to run the business and assess their business. They don't have to be farmers and know how to run the farm day to day. In general, what I can say from the point of view of from the manager and from the outside looking in, and as a friend of guys that have gone through agricultural succession, my advice to everyone is start early. Be honest with everyone involved in the business. And if by the end of it, no one really got what they wanted, but you're all still friends, I think it's been a hell of a success. And that's what's happened with Seymour's. Planning towards 2030. We're preparing for a carbon market and where that's going to take us and how that'll affect our business. I'd probably like to see more direction from the federal government on that and probably more work done in the perennial pasture space, but we are preparing for it. Look, we'll continue to improve our facilities to both retain and attract staff, obviously comply with our OH&S requirements and also meet our animal welfare requirements. We will continue our pasture renovation program. This is allowing us to increase our stocking rate, not such a reliance on supplementary fodder, and animals always do best on grass. It will also allow us to grow the business without having to obtain extra capital to purchase more land. Having said that, over the last 6 years, we've sort of added 570 hectares to the place. So paying down debt for the Seymours is very important and certainly something that's brought up at most board meetings, that we need to be paying down some debt. And that's not just to reduce the debt, that's to allow us that if we want to have another opportunity and something comes along that we want to buy again and grow again, we've got the ability to do it. Expansion of our irrigation. Look, in one breath, I'm complaining about the fact that it can get wet in winter. The one bonus is that we have lots of water very close underground and in the slower southeast. We're very lucky. So we're going to look to expand our irrigation and that'll lower risk by either diversified crops, more fodder for stock, or right now we're looking at a different one, which is hemp for fibre production. So it's something a little bit different. It's a shorter term crop and just allows more diversity. Look, currently South Killanoola is a partnership, but Robert said the other day that he feels we're probably not far off swinging into a corporate body, especially with the introduction of another generation into the family. How is what we're doing now holding us in good stead for the future? Look, as the manager of South Killanoola, I am incredibly lucky to have owners who support me as well as they do. And they've been in agriculture their whole entire life. So, so they're aware of its vagaries, and certainly when we're having some issues or something's negative, they've got a greater understanding of where we're at. We are flexible in our business and we're willing to change. Shifting to a spring calving herd is a major one, and also changing from being a total grazing operation to looking to a recropping. It must have been it's a pretty big decision to make to go and plough up pastures, you know, a couple of 800 hectares of pasture, and turn that into a cropping operation when they made that initial decision. Look, we constantly look at our financial results, and Robert's probably the best at that budgeting side of it. He just absolutely loves it. So we're always comparing the different enterprises and how they're all compared to each other and where we see their strengths and their weaknesses. We're happy to spend money on our business and on our asset base when our finances allow and season will allow us. Look, can I say in conclusion, thanks very much. Thanks, Jake, for the opportunity. I didn't know whether I really wanted it at the start, but thank you very much. Look, I hope you got something out of a presentation here today. We're by no means doing everything well and properly, but we are continually trying to improve and challenge ourselves. All involved with South Killanoola love agriculture, and this is what has made us successful up till now and what will take us into the future. But it's people like you here all today that make ag great and an success going forward. So thanks very much.